Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. I'm RexFinance, and do you remember that company that was talked about on YouTube nonstop for a few months called Workhorse, ticker symbol WKHS? This weird guy that always wore a fedora, always talked about it. Yeah, that guy was me, and I bought Workhorse at less than $3 per share, rode it all the way up to $40 per share, and then I sold it at $20 per share. This company was a terrible company fundamentally, loads of debt, horrible revenue growth, horrible profit margins. Everything was not good. But the reason the stock skyrocketed was because there was speculation that Workhorse was going to win a multi-billion-dollar contract with the United States Postal Service. The contract literally would have been company changing for Workhorse. Well, it came out that Workhorse lost that contract, and on that day, the stock fell from $32 per share all the way down to $16 per share. It was cut in half within a single trading day. And on that trading day was when I sold out at $20 per share. So I still made tremendous gains on my investment, so I can't complain too much. But man, do I wish that this really played out, because I could have made hundreds of thousands of dollars on just a few $1,000 investment. But what if I told you today that Workhorse is a much better company fundamentally than they were last year or 2 years ago? And don't get me wrong, they still have their flaws. There's still things that need to be fixed with Workhorse. This is a long process for this company, and I will discuss all of that in today's video. I will give both sides of the story here. But what if I also added that Workhorse now has a renewed opportunity to do business with the USPS, United States Postal Service, for multi-billions of dollars once again? Yeah, sounds exciting. That's what I'm going to talk about today. If you guys are new here or returning and not yet subscribed, I would greatly appreciate that subscribe button down below. If you enjoy this type of content, want more content on Workhorse, leave a like on the video. Also, if you've ever been a Workhorse shareholder, which chances are there's lots of you out there that once were if you follow my channel, leave me a comment down below whether or not you still hold Workhorse. And if you sold out, let me know what price you bought at and what price you sold at. I would like to know that stuff. It's kind of interesting. But without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss Workhorse currently and this opportunity. So yes, today we got huge news from the USPS, which is the primary reason Workhorse stock was up 15% today, because the United States Postal Service came out and said that instead of just having 10% electric vehicles in their new fleet of vehicles, they're going to go up to 40 to 50%. And what's most important here is they mentioned in their statement that they would be buying thousands of vehicles, quote, off the shelf, including as many battery electric vehicles, or BEVs, as are commercially available. Well, let me tell you something here. There is no clear market leader in the battery electric vehicle space that fits the class of vehicle the United States Postal Service needs. The closest company that has come to producing battery electric vehicles at scale, albeit they've had their problems, is Workhorse. And if Workhorse can execute their business model and their business plan, they are in prime position to have the United States Postal Service as their primary customer. Because bottom line is, there are not very many companies trying to compete in this space. And out of the ones that are, Workhorse has the best technology, the best patents, and quite honestly, they have the most miles driven on the road. They had to recall a lot of vehicles that were on the road, but they have the most testing, the most data analytics, all of that stuff that they need to produce a battery electric vehicle that is going to fit the purposes of the USPS. I don't know if there's another company out there that could do as good a job as Workhorse at this. But don't even get me started with the first time the USPS announced the winner of their huge multi-billion-dollar contract. It makes sense that mail delivery trucks should be electric. There is a reason that golf carts are all electric, because they stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. USPS vehicles and trucks are the same way. Stop, start at every single mailbox in suburban areas. Not to mention, Workhorse holds the patent that allows them to be the only company that can produce a truck or a vehicle that has the capability to launch a drone from the top of the vehicle. That is a huge patent, and that is something the United States Postal Service could have really worked on. They've been experimenting with drone delivery technologies for years, and Workhorse has an advantage there. They have the patent, they have the technology, and they still decided to go with Oshkosh, who is primarily focused on internal combustion engine vehicles, which makes no sense because they're trying to make these vehicles green. That's the reason that a bunch of different hedge funds and institutions, even you guys watching this video, felt that Workhorse was in the prime position to win that contract because they were the only company that was bidding on that contract that had a 100% electric vehicle prototype. The only one. But the reason the USPS chose against Workhorse is because we already talked about it. This was a tremendously flawed company fundamentally. They had lots of debt, and nobody wants to give a huge contract, multi-billion-dollar contract to a company that might not make it tomorrow. They might go bankrupt tomorrow. Nobody wants to take that risk. And the other issue Workhorse had that the other bidders didn't have was an issue with production capacity. Workhorse simply did not have the production capacity to meet the demand of the USPS contract. But all of that stuff is changing very, very quickly. Let's go ahead and dive into this. If we go quickly to Workhorse's investor presentation, this is by far the most important slide in the entire slide deck. They describe how they now have $167 million in cash with zero debt. Talk about a balance sheet transitioning into something far better and far greater than it once was. And I have to applaud this new management team for this. As soon as they were put on the job, they made changes to the company, to the capital structure of this company in a way that benefited everybody. The company needed to cut expenditures, and by getting rid of that debt, they no longer have that interest expense. They don't have to repay that debt, etc. And they have so much flexibility with their balance sheet now that they did not have previously. But perhaps even more importantly on this slide, they describe how they have $25 to $35 million in CapEx that they plan to spend throughout the rest of 2022 to upgrade their facilities, upgrade their production plants. That is huge, and this is going to be completed just in time for the USPS when they would want to be purchasing some off-the-shelf battery electric vehicles. I don't think this could be playing out any better for Workhorse right now. And with only $25 to $35 million in CapEx expected throughout the rest of 2022 and $167 million in cash, there is almost zero bankruptcy risk here for this company. But if we go to Yahoo Finance, we can see that this is just a $500 million company, which might be surprising given the fact that this is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for the company. And this is what really kickstarted Workhorse the last time that it skyrocketed. Sure, it was completely speculative. People were gambling on the possibility that Workhorse would transition into a multi-billion-dollar company overnight if they won this contract with the USPS. But right now, with near zero bankruptcy risk as it stands today, that could change quickly, and $167 million in cash and $25 million in expected revenue this year in 2022. And as I already mentioned, this new multi-billion-dollar opportunity with the USPS, I quite honestly think that we're looking at a 10x opportunity with this stock in Workhorse. And this stock is one that I'm going to be looking into buying back into over the near term. Not with a large percentage of my portfolio, but with a smaller percentage, a calculated risk, because I do feel that this company is undervalued given the current circumstances of the company, the fundamentals of the company, and the potential upside of the company. Another thing that's really working as a tailwind for Workhorse is the fact that 16 states, environmental groups, and a labor union have sued the USPS to halt the purchases of the next generation delivery vehicles under the initial plan that was skewed heavily toward gas-powered trucks. That is lots of power that is fighting for Workhorse, even though they don't really know they're fighting for Workhorse. They want electric vehicles to be a part of the United States Postal Service's vehicle fleet. And this is also the primary reason the USPS has stepped up their game from committing to 10% electric vehicles to 40 to 50% electric vehicles. And over time, I think that number and that percentage is going to near 100%. And if Workhorse can take on this delivery industry and become the primary player here with battery electric vehicles, That is going to be a huge catalyst for Workhorse over the next 10 to 15 years. Now, I should cover the downsides with this company as I discussed I would at the beginning of the video. And it all starts with right now, Workhorse is a pre-revenue company. They've basically hit that restart button because the previous management team screwed things up so bad. However, as it sits right now, Workhorse continues to expect that they will manufacture and sell 250 vehicles in 2022 and generate at least $25 million in revenue as a result of that. That is 250 vehicles that are all going to be produced and sold in this last half of 2022. So they have a lot of work to do, a lot of work in front of them. But the most important factor here to me is that the company has stuck to this timeline. Ever since this management team took over and assessed the risks of the company and decided what they needed to do with the company, they have stuck to this timeline, saying that in the second half of 2022 and going into 2023, they're really going to start ramping up that production again. And the bottom line is next year, you could be looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue that Workhorse is bringing in. As a matter of fact, let's go check out what the analysts think Workhorse is going to do revenue-wise next year. And just as I suspected, we see this. Analysts expect $129 million in revenue next year. But again, it's a pre-revenue company. They have a lot of stuff they need to figure out. They have to work extremely hard to accomplish all of that they have set in front of them. But if they can execute, this represents a tremendous investing opportunity if you have a long-term time horizon. Analysts also expect that next year Workhorse will improve their EPS from negative 50 cents earnings per share to negative 35 cents earnings per share, which is still negative, which means the company is still unprofitable, which is another risk that this company has. This investment opportunity does not come without its risks, but this could be a ridiculously profitable endeavor for Workhorse if they do dominate the electric delivery vehicle market, especially with their drone integration. Another downside with this potential investment is the fact that Workhorse's outstanding share count is going to go up over the coming years. So far, this management team has decided to use equity instead of debt to raise money to grow their business, which is okay as long as the dilution doesn't get out of hand, because if shares outstanding go up enough, that will kill investors. But to end this video, let's talk about one last bullish catalyst that Workhorse has. Workhorse in the past had plenty of flaws. Right now, it still has plenty of flaws. And what that does is it creates an abundance of short selling pressure in your stock. Most websites right now estimate that the short interest in Workhorse stock is around 30%, which is very, very high. So if Workhorse should win a contract from the USPS, if Workhorse does successfully complete this transition in the company, and if Workhorse does dominate the electric vehicle delivery market, that is going to create a short squeeze. And it only takes a little bit of buying pressure to start a huge snowball effect of short squeeze after short squeeze after short squeeze as the stock price goes higher and higher and higher. That is probably part of what we saw today with Workhorse stock being up 15% on this news. That was not just pure buying pressure from people hitting the buy button. That, I can guarantee you, was some short sellers buying to cover their short position because they see the upside is back here for Workhorse. This company is on the up and up. The worst for this company, more than likely, is in the past. It's behind us. So with that, I'm going to leave this video here. Don't forget to comment down below how many shares of Workhorse you own or once owned, and if you have sold those shares, let me know what price you sold them at and if you made money on that investment or not. With that, have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. Peace out.